Like this show and want to make your own? Let me tell you about Anchor. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Now you can even add any song from Spotify directly to your episodes. The possibilities are endless for what you can create, whether it's music analysis, your own radio show, or something the world's never heard before. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Stay spooky. I'm Marnie Vinge, and this is Irioki. Join me and my friends as we explore the darker side of the Sooner State. I'm Marnie Vinge, and this is Irioki, and I'm here today with Amy. Is it Reese?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. And you're a producer at KOCO, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so go ahead and tell people a little bit about yourself and how you got into that and what brought you to the podcast today.
Okay, sure. My name is Amy, and I work at KOCO. I'm a producer, and that kind of means that I put the shows together. So I pick the stories, and I decide if that story is going to have pictures or video or a graphic, or the anchors will be on camera or off camera. So yeah, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, that sounds like it. I think that people think that there's not that much that goes into it, but it's like I've seen the behind the scenes before, and it's very like there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, there's a lot, and there's a whole team behind the faces that you see putting the show together, making sure it goes off smoothly, and then like there aren't any mistakes, or that we're getting like the right video at the right time. It's a whole team of people, and it takes hours put together before you actually watch it at like 5 and 6 and 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm. So whenever there's like severe weather, do you work on that part of it too, like producing that part, or is that mainly like the meteorologists like do that part?
So it's mainly the meteorologists.
Okay.
Just because, so there's active severe weather. And then there's whenever it's all over and we're doing like damage or there's flooding or whatever. Yeah. So when it's active, that's all the Mets.
Okay.
And, the producers are in the booth just making sure that everything is timed correctly. Mm-hmm. We're updating locations for all the storm chasers and making sure that if there is like a crazy video or a picture of a tornado or flooding or whatever it is, that we can help get it on the air as quickly as possible. But most of our job during severe weather is after it's active. Yeah. So when it's not active and, it's just like damage and flooding and here's some hail and it's putting all that stuff together, making sure it flows together and that make sure that it's up to par.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. So today we're going to be talking about something that a listener actually requested that we talk about. So shout out to this listener that wanted this subject. We're going to be talking about the Brady Theater.
I love it.
Yes. And I didn't realize, like, when I started researching this, how much Oklahoma history is, like, intertwined with this location. It's pretty, like, huge in Oklahoma history. So go ahead and tell them what you told me before the podcast started about the name of the Brady Theater. Because the name is changing this summer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the name is changing this summer to the Tulsa Theater. But the Brady Theater, so the building itself has gone through several different names from the very beginning, but the Brady Theater is named after W. Tate Brady, who, for any history buffs out there, he was like a founding father of Tulsa, basically. So whenever Tulsa was like an oil town and like it was all booming, he was one of the original men who came in and helped build it up. So there are streets and buildings and different, like, there's a whole district named after him, actually. Just because, when you have money, you could do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
sure.
he wasn't, by historical standards, the best of people. He was a member of the KKK. I don't remember the exact group name, but he's definitely one of those people. Mm-hmm. And he had a hand in some pretty awful acts.
Yeah.
So while it is not confirmed from anybody in Tulsa, particularly the new owner, that they're changing the name because he's tied to the KKK, it definitely stems a long line of different changes around the city. and the state and the country for
get
into it from just changing from like really strict conservative Confederate or KKK
related
heritage.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Agreed.
Yeah, so as of today, the name is still the Brady Theater, and it's located at 105 West Matthew Brady Street in Tulsa. It's in the Tulsa Arts District near the Vanguard, which I believe is a live music venue, and the Oklahoma Jazz Hall of Fame. It holds a capacity of about 2,800 people, which seems like a lot to me. That's really, I mean, like I'm not like super up on theater stuff, but that seems like that's a pretty good size. Mm-hmm. And you've been there.
Yeah.
You said it's one of your favorite venues.
It's one of my favorite because it's just like, before I didn't know anything about the history whenever I would go to concerts until just recently. But when you walk in, it's just, I mean, it seems massive, but it also seems really small. Yeah. And the acoustics are really cool, and how, I mean, it's built as a theater, not as like a normal concert venue. It's like everything is high ceilings and like long paneled walls, and
so cool.
The there are no seats like directly next to the stage, but you can tell where there used to be some because like that's all like cement down there. But then like the seats just like angle upward and go up towards the doors, like the front of the building. But like, I don't know, the building on the outside kind of looks like an old high school gymnasium.
Yeah, it does.
But on the inside, it looks like an old church to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just loved it.
We're going to talk a little bit about the remodeling that went on, but is that all still like the Art Deco style inside? Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it opened on October 22nd, 1914, and at the time it cost about $125,000 to build. And it was called the Tulsa Convention Hall. And in today's money, that would be about $3.25 million, which for a structure like that, I feel like is not a bad cost. Like if you were building something like that today, I don't think that would, I mean, I haven't built anything like that myself, so I can't say for sure, but I mean, I know that there are homes that are in like close to $1 million that are built. And so that seems like that would be a good price if you were trying to build something like that.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, it was built 10 years after we became a state.
Yeah.
And so things like this weren't
a
thing.
Yeah.
Especially in places that were still pretty like on the up and coming. You know, maybe in Guthrie where like that was supposed to be the capital, so like that's where everybody built first, and then they kind of like dispersed out. But these kind of buildings and these kind of gathering places weren't a thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that at 1917, right? 1914, sorry.
Yes.
Oh, not even 10 years, 7 years. Like, I mean, it just wasn't something that anybody would go to. Like, it was for the elite, but like this was built for a mass amount of people because there were not 2,000 elitists in Tulsa at that time. Right. Which is kind of forward thinking on their part, but
yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
It's interesting to think about, like, if you were the person creating, it's so weird to think like now about living somewhere that is not completely like urban, like, or even like a rural area that's still built up, like there are places to go and things to do, and it's just weird to think about that time period of being like, I'm gonna stake some land and I'm gonna stay here until this is built up to a city. Like it's really, I don't know, it's weird. But so it was designed to be a municipal auditorium and convention hall by the Rose and Peterson architectural firm in Kansas City, Kansas. And this information is taken from the Brady Theater's website, I believe. They have a bunch of information about that. There were a couple renovations that it went under, and one was in 1930. The world-renowned architect Bruce Goff was commissioned to come in and do some stuff, and he only had 30 days to transform. It had a barn-like interior to begin with, so I'm guessing it was kind of like just like a place for people to gather to have like community meetings or something like that, like before that time, and he turned it into something really elegant. The remodel included Art Deco styles of draperies and seats, vertical wall panels of white plaster with thin gold dividers, gilded air conditioning grills, which sounds so fancy, and acoustic ceiling tiles painted green, blue, white, and gold 5 massive green and white pendant light fixtures were installed centrally in the auditorium. And it just sounds so beautiful. And like, I feel like I need to go there now and see some kind of performance. Like, I feel like that period of time, like the Art Deco style of stuff, like it's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's just like unrivaled I feel like there's so much that's built today that's just very like, like not that take your breath away kind of stuff that was done then. And then in 1952, additions were made to the theater. They made a front and rear addition to the original structure. Upper and lower lobbies were added, and the building was renamed the Tulsa Municipal Theater. August 29th, 1979, it was added to the National Register of Historic Places, and that's when the name Brady Theater began being used. And a lot of really famous people have performed there. Robin Williams, U2, Merle Haggard, Chicago, The Cars, Alice Cooper, Gallagher, which I always think of the podcast What Say You whenever I hear about Gallagher, which it's like a podcast by 2 of the guys from Impractical Jokers. Oh, and yes. They did a podcast about going to see Gallagher. And like, it was so great. I love that podcast. So Journey and Buddy Holly, and I believe Will Rogers actually was someone else who performed there. The list goes on and on. You can look at that list on their website, and we're going to talk about one of the particularly famous people that is said to haunt the Brady Theater. But first, we're going to cover some dark history of Tulsa, and the Brady Theater is involved in this. So the Tulsa Race Riot, or the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921, this is really interesting and interesting probably in the worst way, because I don't remember ever learning about this in school. Did you grow up in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. I remember I had an Oklahoma history class my 10th grade year of high school, and we never, not once, and not in my American history, we didn't cover this. So it's really eye-opening if you, especially to be from here and know that this happened here, and it's one of the, if not the worst, like, incidents of mob violence in American history. Like, it's really crazy. So it took place on May 31st and June 1st. I'm sorry, was it 1921 or 1931? I have both dates here. Okay, I apologize for that. We're gonna get the actual date. So basically, the general gist of it was that mobs of whites attacked black residents and the businesses of the Greenwood district in Tulsa. The attack was carried out by ground and by air and destroyed more than 35 blocks of the district, which at the time was the wealthiest black community in the United States. Greenwood was such a wealthy district that it was known as the Black Wall Street. It was, I believe it was the wealthiest black community. It was organized in 1906 after Booker T. Washington's 1905 tour of Arkansas, Indian Territory, and Oklahoma. Within the community, there were several grocers, 2 newspapers, 2 movie theaters, nightclubs, and numerous churches, which, I mean, for them to have 2 movie theaters is pretty great, because Moore doesn't even have 2 movie theaters. Like, 2 movie theaters, it was a big community. There were black doctors, lawyers, dentists, and clergy who lived in and served the area. During Washington's trip to the area, he encouraged the cooperation, the economic independence, and the excellence that was being displayed in Greenwood. And the prosperity that they experienced was partially a result of the oil boom, and some of the historians and some of the people who've worked on the commission since the time of the race riot that they're trying to piece together what happened, they believe that the wealth of the black community there was part of a factor in why some of the race riot happened. The inciting incident was around 4 p.m. on May 31st. And did you get the year?
Yes, 1921.
21. Okay, May 31st, 1921. Okay, so around 4 p.m., 19-year-old Dick Rowland, who was a black shoe shiner, entered the only elevator of the Drexel building at 319 South Main Street to use the top floor restroom, which was restricted to black people. He encountered a woman, Sarah Page, the 17-year-old white elevator operator, really a girl, not a woman. And it's likely that they knew each other because this was the only building nearby to where he worked that he was allowed to use the restroom of. So it's probably likely that they saw each other fairly often enough to know who each other, know who the other one was. And at some point during the ride down, a clerk at the first floor clothing store Renberg's heard a scream. He went to see what was happening. The elevator doors opened. Sarah looked distraught, and Roland fled from the elevator, and the clerk automatically assumed that she had been assaulted, and he summoned the authorities. And also, I read something that said in papers at the time, they never used the terms rape or sexual assault. It was always assaulted. So it's indicated that they believed that he raped her from the newspaper headlines that were going around. And according to the 2001 Oklahoma Commission final report, which was done all about the race riot and kind of like what really happened and what, and kind of in an effort to educate people about it, it's actually speculated that they may have not only known each other but been involved with each other and had and had a quarrel, and or even if they weren't involved with each other, that he might have tripped and steadied himself against the girl. Either way, people are almost certain that they knew each other. And there's a quote from the commission that they say, "Yet in the days and years that followed, many who knew Dick Rowland agreed on one thing, that he never would have been capable of rape." And so I think that's really important, because I highly doubt that transpired in the elevator ride down.
Right.
Yeah.
What,
like
5 minutes?
Right. Yeah. That.
Is that?
Yeah. So, of course, he was taken into custody later, and a group of whites gathered outside the courthouse that he was in. At the time, the papers were kind of sensationalizing this, and a rumor was spreading that...
Shocker.
Yeah, shocker. Shocking. A rumor was spreading that Dick Rowland had been lynched, and this obviously alarmed the black community of the area, and they arrived at the courthouse armed. And some of the white people were also armed, and shots ended up being fired. 12 people were killed, 10 white and 2 black. After the news of these deaths spread, mob violence just absolutely exploded. Thousands of whites rampaged through the black neighborhood that night and the next day, killing men and women, burning and looting stores and homes. And this statistic to me is absolutely staggering. 10,000 black people were left homeless after that. And the property damage amounted to more than $1.5 million in real estate and $750,000 in personal damage. A lot of the people, understandably, the survivors left Tulsa.
Yeah.
I can certainly imagine that. The event was largely omitted from history books and classrooms, and it was only recently in 1996 that a commission was formed to study the race massacre in an effort to educate and inform the public about these events from Oklahoma history.
But still not in our history books.
I was about to say, clearly they have not integrated that into the history books quite yet. So the reason that I bring up the Tulsa race riots and everything is that the Brady Theater was actually used as a detention center during the race riot. Mm-hmm. So, and there's some urban legend that goes with that we'll get into after we talk about the most famous guest, or not the most famous, but the guest that is supposed to haunt the Brady Theater, the performer. So, had you ever heard of Enrico Caruso?
No, I can't
say. I had heard the last name. I knew that he was an opera singer, but I didn't know like all of this stuff about him. So Enrico Caruso, according to local legend, is the ghost that haunts the Brady Theater. He performed there in 1920 and reportedly caught the cold that led to his death while he was in the Tulsa area. So Caruso was an Italian operatic tenor, and he performed across Europe and the Americas in a variety of operatic roles. He also made approximately 260 commercially released recordings in a span of 18 years, from 1902 to 1920. That is a lot. And you can actually go on like Spotify and Apple Music and stream these. So if you want some mood music to listen to while you're learning about Caruso's fate, you can do that. So he was born in Naples, Italy on February 25th, 1873. He was the third of 7 children, one of only 3 to survive infancy. And there was kind of this legend about the family that they had 21 children, 18 of whom died in infancy. A historian, however, proved this to not be true. And what I thought was fun about that was that Caruso and his brother were the ones who propagated that rumor. They were like, "Oh yes, this is absolutely
the surviving
true."
Children of 21.
Yeah, exactly. Just us 3. So his father was a mechanic, and he definitely wanted his son to adopt the same trade. At the age of 11, he had Caruso apprentice to a mechanical engineer who constructed public water fountains. But at his mother's insistence, he attended school for a time, receiving a basic education under a local priest during this time. And it was during this time that he actually sang in the choir and realized that he was quite musically talented, and decided that he might want to pursue a career in music. He worked as a street singer to raise money for his poor family. They were quite poor. They weren't destitute, but they did struggle for money, and he did struggle throughout some of his life for money after this. He performed at cafes and soirees, and at 18, he used the funds that he had earned from singing to buy his first new pair of shoes. Yeah, that's it's really, he's got a really cool story. So at age 22, he made his professional stage debut at the Teatro Nuovo in Naples. I probably butchered that. I apologize.
I tried saying it last night and I couldn't. I'm not going to.
So that's where he made his debut, and he did a string of other engagements after that, and he ended up from that engagement hooking up with someone who instructed him in becoming an opera singer, I guess kind of a mentor type figure. And though money was tight throughout most of his early career, he finally caught a break when he made his debut at the Metropolitan Opera in New York City, which is probably one of the most famous operas in the world.
Oh, yeah.
I had a friend who lived in New York City that got season tickets to the Met, and I just couldn't even wrap my mind around the idea of an opera. We have a civic center and everything, and I don't know, do they have operas there ever? I don't think so. I've never heard, I get emails from them, and I've never heard about an opera being there, but I don't know, it's just really very fancy to have an opera house, I think.
Definitely. And then say, "Oh, I have season tickets."
Yeah, exactly. That's the exact word I was thinking. Yes, posh. It's very Niles and Fraser Crane.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah, which they're always going to the opera, and I love that show.
With their overcoats.
Yes, exactly. And Niles with his little white, I don't know if it would be a scarf or if there's a fancier name for whatever he had.
Yeah.
So he performed in a production of Rigoletto in November of 1903, and that was the year after he had started doing recordings. After this point, his recording career and his Met career kind of ran in tandem until his death in 1921, and I think they kind of bolstered each other. It was kind of a situation where he was known for his recordings and also his career, and they just kind of fed off of each other and made him successful.
It's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work. So his wife, Dorothy, about his death, there's a lot of information about his death, and he suffered a very long time before he died. His wife noted that her husband's health began a distinct downward spiral in late 1920 after a lengthy North American concert tour. And this might have been the same tour on which he caught a cold in Tulsa that it was, legend has it, led to the pleurisy at the time of his fatal illness. However, there is also a story. He was injured during this tour by a falling pillar while he was performing in Samson and Delilah, and it hit him on the back over the left kidney.
Ow.
Yeah. Yeah, and also he was going at the time of his death to have surgery, I believe, to have his left kidney removed. It hit him really hard.
I mean, how do you just keep going?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, I get show must go on, but
yeah,
no,
that
your
like
kidney is like
damage, like for real damage, like to the point that you're gonna have surgery to have it removed. Like that is some dedication that I do not have. Yeah,
kudos for Caruso.
Yeah, he was committed to the performance. So during a performance at the Brooklyn Academy of Music on December 11th, 1920, he had a throat hemorrhage, and also obviously, also Al. Throat hemorrhage, and that performance was canceled after Act 1 because, I mean, that is something that as a singer you couldn't really get around.
Right.
His health continued to decline after that point, and ultimately he was on his way to Rome. He was back in Italy after his tour to see a specialist to have his left kidney removed, which that to me is just going back to that about the injury is like mind-blowing that he was injured so badly that he ended up having to, that's a heavy pillar.
Yeah.
Like that's probably why we use fake
How did nothing
pillars
else
now.
Like happen? Like no broken ribs
I have
or
no idea.
Spine injury or
I don't know.
Just
that's
right in your kidney.
Yeah.
That's some bad luck right there.
And I used to do Taekwondo, and I've been hit back there before, and it hurts. Like so to be hit hard enough that you need to have it removed, I can't even imagine. Like
no, hard pass.
Yeah, hard pass on that. We're good. I'll stick to radio, I think, and where there are no falling pillars. All the acting is just for fun. So he was on his way to Rome to see the specialist to have the left kidney removed, and they stopped at a hotel. He was given morphine to help him sleep because I'm guessing he was in a lot of pain.
Makes sense.
And he died at the hotel shortly after 9 a.m. on August 2nd, 1921. He was 48 years old, which is not at all very old. And the way that Caruso is tied into the Brady Theater is that he actually performed there, which I thought they didn't put him on the website of people that had performed there.
I wonder why.
Yeah, and I wondered if that was like them wanting to distance themselves
we are not haunted. Please stop asking.
Exactly, yeah. So the legend goes that Enrico Caruso went to visit an oil well in Sapulpa.
As you do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I can imagine that would probably be a pretty cool thing to see if you were from...
Right.
Like, somewhere...
It's not like oil wells like we see now.
Yeah.
These are like old-timey...
Right.
You can see the oil.
Yeah.
People just walk around in barrel type.
Yeah.
Oil wells.
Oh, yeah. I think it would have been probably something that someone traveling from a long ways away would be like, this is really cool.
Italy?
Yeah.
You're like, mm-mm.
Yeah. Like, we'd be like, legit. We want to see your vineyards. And they're like, we want to see your oil wells.
What an awful trade-off.
Yeah, I know. I feel like we're getting, like, the way better part of that deal.
Right.
So they went to this oil well in Sapulpa, and they were accompanied by 2 other cars. The day was wet and rainy, and all 3 of the cars broke down, which I think is a very, like, urban legendy kind of thing. Caruso had a sold-out show that night at the Brady, and it said that he had to walk a half-mile back in the rain from where the cars broke down. He died about 9 months later, and his manager always blamed the weather that he had to endure that night for his death, it's said. So another account from a website called thecrypticfile.wordpress.com states that he toured the oil fields in a convertible with the top down. It was a wet day. They got stuck. The group had to hitchhike back to town for that night's performance, which this includes the whole group in this account. And they said that, of course, the performance was one of his best. He caught a cold shortly thereafter, which supposedly led to his death in 1921. There is another account, though, that he got pleurisy from an open carriage ride, and it's not specified if that happened here or in Italy or in some other location between the time that he was here and the time that he died in Naples. So that's kind of where Caruso comes in to haunt the Brady Theater. And I would be really interested to know if any, like, listeners have been there and experienced anything or, like, you know, that kind of thing. Because we actually, when we were getting ready to do this episode, we listened to an EVP that is available. What was the website that was available on?
Hold on.
I can't remember. Okay, I will tell another thing that has to do with the energy surrounding a potential haunting. So there are also pictures of Black people being walked into the theater at gunpoint during the Tulsa race riot. And it has been speculated that the bad energy surrounding that event, combined with the deaths that occurred, have left a mark. There are numerous accounts that say approximately 6,000 Black men and women were rounded up and locked inside the Brady during the time of this detention. The official death toll ended up being 39 to 40. There are claims, though, that 300 entered the theater, were unaccounted for, and never seen again. There were accusations made that they were burned alive in the furnace or killed and sealed in the wall, which I think that is like a terrifying urban legend. Like, that is terrifying.
Just knowing what the walls look like, that's awful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I'm gonna say that is probably not true. I'm fairly certain that is, they would know by now, I think.
I don't know. I mean, it's not even in our history book. So
that's true. That is true.
Like, we're not. Yeah. Just don't tell anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't know walls, don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody. Don't put that in the history book. Don't put that in the little travel pamphlets that you get at Love's about Oklahoma. So some of the paranormal claims that people have made about the space are like lights turning on and off, unexplained equipment failures, and some people don't believe that the space is haunted at all, though. There's kind of like there's a camp that believes it is, and there's a camp that believes it isn't. And I think I can understand, like, if the Brady Theater themselves is like, we're not haunted, like, stop saying we're haunted. Mm-hmm. But I also think that if I owned a place, a historic place, I don't see being haunted as a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I kind of see it as like, this is just one extra layer to how this place is cool. Like, you know, like the Stone Lion Inn, they totally embrace it. Mm-hmm. Like, they're like, yes, like, come stay. The little girl
on the top of the stairs, she's always there.
Yeah, yes. Like, come and stay. Come to the murder mystery dinner and, like, spend the night in a haunted hotel. So I don't think it's really a bad thing to be haunted. But so there is an EVP that you can listen to. What's the website on it?
Ghostgadgets.com.
Okay, ghostgadgets.com. So if you Google that and Google the Brady Theater together, you will probably pull up an EVP. And what is it supposedly that the EVP says?
So their description of it says that you can hear a male voice saying something that you can't really understand, but I guess the person who posted it says that they can make out the F word.
Okay.
Now, we listened to it, and I mean, it does sound very creepy.
It does.
I didn't make out any of the actual words, but it sounded very creepy. But they said that there were only 2 people in the tunnel, which is creepy. Mm-hmm. Avoid the tunnels at all costs.
Yeah.
Whenever this was recorded, Craig and Terry, and it's a male voice on the EVP.
Oh, I just got chills. Oh my gosh.
This website also has pictures of like where they took the EVP at and like different places around the building, and it's just the creepiest. Like,
those tunnels are
look at
creepy.
This tunnel.
Yeah.
No.
There that's like a demon tunnel.
Yes, and I'm like, not even if they're just like ghosts down here. But what if they're like, you see a person, an actual person, who's just like hanging out down there, and like all of a sudden now you're in their home.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's that's like, I think that I was just talking to someone about this, and I can't remember if I talked about it on the podcast or not. I think I did. I think I talked about it with Jay. The mole people in New York City.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there is a book called Reliquary by Douglas Preston, Douglas Preston, Lincoln Child, I think are their names. And they write the Pendergast series, and they wrote Relic, which was made into a movie that's not that great, but also fun, but kind of fun if you like creature features, like kind of fun. The book is way more fun. And Reliquary is the sequel to that, and it's set in the tunnels under the subway.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, I was reading that, and like, my body was tense, and I just felt the claustrophobia, and like, I when it comes to reading stuff, I cannot handle the stuff that's like in a closed, like, ugh. There was another book called The White Road that has by Sarah Lotz, I believe, that has a whole lot of scenes where the guy is like spelunking and gets stuck in a cave, and then water is rising, and it's like no, like I'm good. Like if God had meant me to live in a cave, yeah, He would have put me in a cave.
Right.
Like,
we'd be there right now.
Exactly. We'd be doing this podcast from a cave if that was where I was supposed to be. And I feel the same way about flying. Like I am not about that life. I hate flying. But yeah, so when you were at the Brady Theater, did you was there anything that was amiss?
No. Well, I mean, it's kind of dumb. I guess I didn't realize that it was like so historic. When we went down there, I knew it was an old building and it was cool looking. Yeah. I didn't realize there was like an actual history behind it.
Right.
I mean, you do kind of get like a creepy vibe, I'm not gonna lie, but that could just be because of how it's built.
Yeah.
Very Art Deco, dark hallways, the lighting is very old. Definitely is not like a modern renovation happening inside.
Yeah.
So you can definitely see how it's like a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
I didn't know there were like underground tunnels beneath it. According to ghostsketches.com, there are.
Yeah.
But no, it just seems like an old building, and
yeah.
I don't know. I was a little bit drunk when I was there, so I don't.
Yeah.
I wasn't like looking around for some ghosts. But
yeah.
Next time I will be.
Yes. It's like when I found out there are tunnels under Oklahoma City, I was like, what?
It's the worst.
Oh, I was like so excited. I was like, oh my God. And yeah.
I remember being told when I was little that there were like the mole people, that we had our own version of that in the tunnels, and I refused to go down there until I was in college.
Yeah.
And even then I was like, oh, I don't want to go down here. I don't like this at all.
My mom and dad, when they met, they were both working downtown Oklahoma City in the 70s, and back then there was a bar down there, and so they would actually go down there and drink and hang out and stuff. A lot of people that work downtown would go down there for happy hour and use the what is it called? Do they call it the OKC Underground now? Okay. And they would use that tunnel to get from one building to another and all this stuff. And but it's like a cool setting for a story, I think.
For sure.
Yeah, I should get on that.
You should get on that. Next episode is about underground tunnels.
Yes.
Not the vampires that are in there.
Yeah.
What was that last week's episode with the vampires?
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
not those. Just the tunnels themselves.
Yes.
Oh, and also, why Oklahoma City?
Right.
Why did you build these?
Yeah. It seems very, I don't know what year they were built, but it seems like a very 70s thing. But I'm sure they were built way before that because they're under all the buildings and the streets and stuff.
Right. There's a direct line to different buildings and different areas of downtown. It wasn't just a mistake. Right. For funsies.
Yeah. And it's neon lights down there. It's a very interesting thing. If you ever get a chance to walk around down there, you should. It's pretty cool. But yeah.
Hold on, I'm trying to look up the date.
Okay, yeah.
More than one thing at a time.
Yes. We're going to get that date.
Oh, you're so right. Opened in 1974.
Really? Okay. Woo, I'm good.
Covers more than 20 square blocks, which is a lot.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
Yeah. So going back to the Tulsa massacre, not to keep jumping around, but so it was more than 10 blocks that they destroyed. That's so not Bricktown, downtown OKC nowadays, but 10, 15 years ago, that would be the equivalent of knocking out the whole area.
Yeah.
I'm that's
insane.
So crazy. And what I want is for someone to go through, I'm not smart enough to do this, but for someone who is smart enough to do this, to go through and recreate the map area with current day Tulsa.
Yeah.
And just overlay it so you can kind of see here's where it started and ended,
right.
and here's how much of the area of it covered, and
to give you a reference point for how big this damage was.
Yes.
That's a really good idea. And if there is
somebody please do it.
Yes, somebody please do that. If you can overlay the map and kind of give people a better idea of, because I think it's hard to wrap your mind around landmarks that aren't there, or kind of it's a very, even though you know how many blocks 10 blocks is, it's kind of nebulous, and if you had this and this to mark it by, I think it would be very enlightening.
Yes,
I think that would be
for
good.
Sure.
That's a really good idea, Amy.
Thank you so much.
So I guess that's about all I've got for you guys on the Brady Theater. And if anybody has any experiences with the Brady Theater, though, I would love to hear them, and I will pass them on to Amy because I'm sure she would love to hear them too. So if there's anything you want to plug, or like your Instagram account or anything like that.
My Instagram is just Amy Reese, AIMEEREECE. I post a lot of things about of my dog.
Yes,
he's
it's awesome.
Adorable. His name is Hemingway.
Dogs are the best.
Perfect. Yes. That's pretty much it. Watch KOCO.
Yes, watch KOCO, you guys. Yes. And sometimes on her Instagram, she posts like cool behind the scenes type stuff, like especially to your stories. I've noticed that's pretty cool. So all I've got is follow the Instagram, the Facebook. It's at Erie Okie. There's a Facebook group, which is Erie Okies, and you can find that, I think, just by searching for it. Also, I have started an Instagram for my writing, which is at Erie Okie Press. And that's kind of where I'm going to be posting updates about the stuff that I have plans to publish this year and next year. So just keep listening. You guys are awesome. So stay spooky. Bye.